When I came to understand that I couldn't vote, I immediately investigated and I discovered that I wasn't alone. Florida had over 1.54 million people who were just like me that couldn't vote. I have a feeling that the day I get my voting rights back, I'm probably going to cry. I was convicted of a felony in Florida, and I've lost my right to vote.
I lost my right to vote before I ever had the right to vote as a teenager caught up in street gang life.
I lost my rights due to a felony conviction, and you have no voice. You have no way to participate in the elections, possibly change the laws and policies that limit you.
I initially grew up in the inner cities of Miami, surrounded by drugs, crimes, violence. Grew up in a broken home. By the time I was 12, I was involved in the local street gangs, and I was in and out of the juvenile detention centers. I was tried as an adult. And by the time I was 16, I was ultimately on my way to prison with a 30-year sentence and a 9th grade education.
My aspirations as a child was to either be an attorney or to be a pilot. Somewhere along the line, I lost track of that. Got involved with drugs, and that led me down a very dark path.
I have people in my family that can't vote, so I definitely want to support this.
Well, please let them know that you signed a petition to support them.
I sure will.
Appreciate it. I was convicted in 2001, so I ended up only serving 3 years on a 15-year sentence. And eventually I became homeless. In 2005, I found myself standing in front of railroad tracks, waiting on a train to come so I could jump in front of it. The train didn't come that day.
I was probably what you would consider an at-risk youth. I had a roommate that stole my identity. I pretty much kind of felt stuck, and I made a bad decision. I was convicted in 1999 for a felony drug charge. I was sentenced to 29 months in a federal prison, and that pretty much changed the rest of my life.
It took a while for me to realize when I lost my right to vote.
I had no clue that civil rights were taken away, much less that they needed to be restored.
When I was arrested, I wasn't even old enough to legally consume alcohol. I had no idea about the voting process, let alone what rights were taken from me.
What I decided to do was to dedicate my life, not just to get my rights restored, but to get everyone their rights restored. I decided to enroll in college, ended up graduating at the top of my class, and eventually I was accepted into law school, where I graduated in 2014 with my Juris Doctorate degree.
I got my GED. Told myself if I ever got out of prison, I was going to pursue the dream of becoming an attorney one day and an advocate for the underdog.
My goal was to be a public defender. I had applied to law school, and they told me in order to sit for the bar, I would have to have my rights restored. So I applied in 2008 to have my rights restored in Florida. The process for me took about 5 years, but I know other people wait 10 to 15 years to get their rights restored.
We are currently engaged in an effort to revise Florida's Constitution that would allow for the automatic restoration of voting rights to an individual once they have served their time. Right now we're about 14,000 petitions shy of getting this in front of the Florida Supreme Court.
How long do you have?
To get this in front of the Florida Supreme Court, we need 68,314 verified petitions signed by registered voters in the state of Florida.
You made the presentation.
The picture
Yeah.
collage, that's awesome.
You made the presentation about our book study at the jail. So this is for you.
Oh, thank you so
So,
much.
my
This is
pleasure.
awesome.
Thank you for being a speaker.
My sentence was ultimately reduced after fighting, and when it was time to get out, I decided to move into the homeless shelter in Orlando. Became an honor student. I then applied to the University of Central Florida. Something that I've come to learn is that people's stigma about someone else and people's fears about someone else usually begin to erode once they know that someone else. And so I'm hoping that I could be that advocate, not only publicly, but personally.
A person that's denied the right to vote is basically now a second-class citizen. Disenfranchisement diminishes the political voice of minority communities, particularly the African American. And so, for instance, if a mayor, those individuals in that community cannot put him in office, nor can they take him out. Why would he be concerned about their kids dying in the street? You know anybody that can't vote because they have a prior felony conviction?
Yes, I do.
The day I found out my rights were restored, there were so many people that were denied. And I don't think this should be a reconviction. These people served their sentence, and all of us are felons for the rest of our lives until we die. So the limitation on housing and employment affects us for the rest of our life.
When you vote, that's when you truly experience what it means to be an American citizen. And that feeling have been taken away for so long. You know, I can only imagine that I'll probably be overwhelmed like I am now, you know, because too many people have died and sacrificed for us to have the right to vote, for a handful of politicians to continuously deny us of that.